Hey, it's Tim, Pickup Truck Plus SUV Talk, and today I'm talking about the Ford F-150. The question of whether or not it is reliable. This question's been on my mind for, well, years. And so my crack team at pickuptrucktalk.com went ahead and put together a cool story where we looked at the different issues of that truck. We went ahead and looked at 3 different resources. We looked at carcomplaints.com, which lists recalls and problems owners have had and things are reporting there. And we looked at 2 consumer survey sites, JD Power and Consumer Reports. They both send out surveys to their readers and different people who bought these vehicles, and they get responses back, and then they publish those findings. And we also looked at some bigger news stories, some things that happened, some class action lawsuits, to really give you a good idea whether the Ford F-150 is actually reliable. And oh hey, if you haven't checked out this surveys before, these studies I've done, there's a whole playlist on reliability and resale value. I'll link that above. If you're looking for a truck, it's a really good resource. Check out those videos. Make sure you subscribe too. Stick around. It's a good time. A lot of fun on this channel, and I sure do enjoy making these videos. So let me go ahead and stop blabbering. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put up on the screen the story, and I'm going to go to carcomplaints.com and kind of talk you through what I'm seeing as a journalist and what you need to be aware of before you go ahead and purchase one of these trucks. Let's get started on all of that right now. Okay, so like I said, it's on pickuptrucktalk.com. It's How Reliable F-150. You can see the title there. Jill Simonello, my managing editor, went ahead and put this article together. We have some people look at it, so if there's something we're missing, please let us know in the comments. But I think we got the big ones. And so, as we said, the F-150 enters its 14th generation for the 2021 model year, I'd like to look back. And we have done the Ram 1500 and the Silverado as well. There is a Toyota Tacoma. And again, we look at those 3 things. I know JD Power, a lot of people don't like it because they feel like they bought awards, but it's another survey site, another piece of information. Take it as it will. Take it as it will. Take it as you will. All right, looking at carcomplaints.com, looking at F-150 engine problems, the site declares 2012 the worst model year because of said engine problems. And so this is the chart. Now, I can also go to carcomplaints.com in this video like this, and you can see this chart, and it is somewhat interactive as you go over stuff. Now, what's interesting here is it says 2012, worst engine problems. Kind of not a lot of problems. Looks like 2013 to me, but looking at the information, it has 57 complaints logged of the engine for that year. NHTSA logs an additional 417 complaints. According to NHTSA, there are only 4 recalls in this model year, and none of them have to do with the engines. So it's kind of a weird thing. Now, this 2012 problem, like we're going to talk here in a minute, was due to loss of power. Okay, on that power loss, I remember this pretty well. I don't remember the 5-liter V8 problem having loss of power, but I remember the EcoBoost having a problem with this back 2011, 2012, I think that's what we say. 2012 is what we're talking about, the engine. And I was a young journalist covering this story, and what it was humidity was building up in the intercooler, and that water was getting sucked into the engine. And I remember the fix back in the day for a lot of people on the forums was just taking a little small drill bit and drilling a small hole in the intercooler, allowing that water to come out. Now, Ford has addressed this issue. There was I forget if it was a flap or something, a TSB, a technical service bulletin that came out to fix that. But I do remember that back in the day. So if you're going to buy a 2012, take a look at the intercooler. I mean, you may have a small hole in there, and that's just to let the water out. But let's go ahead and get back to the article. All right, getting back to the story, it's pretty interesting that I never remember the 5-liter V8 having loss of power, but I do remember the EcoBoost having that problem. And what's interesting here is Consumer Reports actually gives this model year 2 out of 5 predicted reliability ranking, which is higher than every other ensuing year. So something funky is going on where 2012 worst problems, but doesn't show up there, and Consumer Reports actually like it. Actually doesn't give it too bad of a thing if you look at auto predictive reliability. Looking at the JD Power ratings, for 2012, that's higher than every other model year at 88 out of 100. You might think 2012 model is the one to buy. And just like I said, it's a little bit of a grain of salt. You got to look in there and see what the problems were. But if they fix the EcoBoost problem, with that TSB and such, you may not have, that big of an issue. But yeah, they say they rate 2012 higher repair costs or more problems at lower mileage. And that's from them. And so this is an example of it. This 2012, a loss of power while driving, average cost to fix was $2,300. And miles was 44,000 miles. So you can see where that's going to be kind of a big complaint. Let's open this up and take a look at it. And it looks like there's not a lot more going on here. Here's some comments. And yeah, he's pissed off. Wants everybody to stay away from Ford vehicles. He got his truck in, this truck was in 2018, we had transmission problems with his 3.5 liter. And so he had a big issue from that. And he traded in, bought a Jeep Cherokee instead, which is a little interesting because Jeeps are not known for good reliability. So some transmission issues going on, which we noted in this article as well. Looking a little bit farther down the article and looking at more issues, looking at 2004 was the next big issue for 2004. The 2004 issue was major engine problems. So this was a bigger deal for us than 2012 because there's a lot of issues with that 2004 engine. Not sure. Let's go click on this and see what the 2004 says. We'll go back here and go to 2004. Oh, look at all those 1158 complaints. And look at engine problems. And the spark plugs. That was that spark plug stuff. I remember that back in the day, spark plugs were breaking off the head like crazy, knocking, engine failure, spark plug pops out of the head, severe shaking, engine running rough. I mean, that 2004 was not a good model year for that truck and the engine problem. So I'd avoid that year and avoid 2012 unless the TSB has been done. So there was a TSB here we linked to that tells you details on that drivability issue for the humidity issue going into the engine. Looking further down, there was a Windows issue that was kind of interesting. This comes up on carcomplaints.com. It's various Windows not rolling up. Site logs more than 650 complaints for 2004 and more than 250 complaints logged the following year. It's more annoying than major. Most of the fixes are window regulator, $300. Consumer Reports also logged this issue in its body hardware section with multiple owners complaining of rear window leaks and window motors not working. The good news, if you're marketing for a 16-year-old F-150, the windows probably already failed and then repaired. So that's a right side of it. That's 2004 had a big issue with some of those windows over time. So I don't know if that, as we're going to see it in 2004, will come up in 2005, 26, 27, 28, as it keeps kind of growing, as those Windows regulators fail. It would make sense if they would. Now, transmission is a big issue. This has been a ongoing thing. There was a recall for 1.2 million F-150s in the U.S. from 2011 to 2013 with a 6-speed automatic. Recall states transmission may unexpectedly downshift in first gear, regardless of vehicle speed, and loss of vehicle control, increasing risk of a crash. This was on top of a 2016 recall of 150,000 vehicles for the same darn thing. If you fast forward to 2017-2020, there are claims of more transmission problems. There's a corresponding lawsuit. There's a lawsuit filed over the 10-speed automatic transmission. The problem centers around rough shifts and clanking sounds. More specifically, the lawsuit claims the problems related to previous recall, stating the transmission issues were never fully acknowledged or fixed. And so there's a lot of transmission issues. That 10-speed seems like some concern. The 6-speed automatic was some concerns in 2011, 2013. And what's interesting is GM's had a lot of problems with the 8-speed from those prior model years. Their 10-speed looks like it's all right, but Ford, who also built the same 10-speed with GM, although they use different software and different ways to set it up, is not having good luck with that 10-speed. So at time of writing, there's also a transmission recall for 17, 18, and 20 models, mostly related to the gear shift position and being a different gear than one selected by the driver, all related to 10-speed automatic transmission. Consumer Reports also logs transmission issues, one of the most common Ford F-150 reliability trouble spots for 11, 12, 18, and 20 model years, but listed as a minor issue. So there's something that transmission is going to concern. So that'd be one thing to definitely check out, is check out whether the truck's been recalled, has it been fixed before you buy it, and then keep an eye on that 10-speed and what's going to happen in this lawsuit, because there's a lot of concerns there. Another thing that I did a video on way back in the day, a couple years ago, I actually forgot I did this video, was there's a frozen door latches. And so in March 2017, owner of New York filed a lawsuit about this, claiming the frozen door latches were a known issue Ford failed to fix. Automaker had issued at least 2 technical service bulletins prior to the lawsuit, but owners still reported issues years later. It was only after the lawsuit was filed that a recall was issued in April 2017 and applied to 15 and 2017's F-150s. So the actual recall is doors may open while driving, but it really talks about the frozen door latches. And I remember they would try to shut the door, and it wouldn't shut because the door latch was frozen. So long story short, the lawsuit was filed and settled in March 2020. If you're affected by it, look for recall. You're not getting much money out of it. It's like 5.3 million, I think it was. So you get some cash out of it. That's also, by the time the lawyers take their cut of it. So looking at the best years. So the best years that we're looking at for the F-150 are going to be, and it looks at the same way on carcomplaints.com. If you go back, and again, this is a good resource site. Just one of the things to take into consideration is 2014. You can see there's very little problems in 2014 compared to prior years. Whatever reason, 2014 seems like that's a solid model year. And so looking at 2014, that's a good one. 2020 is a brand new truck. Some concerns about, buying first brand new trucks, but, it looks like that is the model years that are best ones to buy. So 2014's worst problems center around the brakes. Average cost $300 to $900. The J.D. Power gives this model 83 out of 100, which oddly puts it in the bottom of the pack in terms of initial quality. It's only rated better than the Toyota Tundra that year, so J.D. Power is a little bit off track. I mean, they usually do a much better job being closer to Car Complaints and Consumer Reports. They just didn't in that case. And so Consumer Reports gives this a 3 out of 5 reliability ranking, which is better than every other year. It also ranks the 2014 F-150 as number 2 out of 5 among 2014 pickup trucks. Best, and ironically, given the J.D. Power results, by the Tundra. So the Tundra is consistent on J.D. Power and Consumer Reports. F-150 is kind of a weird spot there. As far as 2020 is concerned, long-term reliability is going to be tough to discern because it's so current. We don't have enough mileage yet in these trucks. We haven't seen anything. CarComplaints.com hasn't logged any Ford F-150 reliability complaints. There's nothing out there so far. There are 6 recalls with it, the biggest which relates to transmission, as we mentioned above. Another screenshot there. The worst year, 2012. Again, engine problems was a huge issue there. And I think if that recall had gotten done, I think you're fine. But, I remember those EcoBoosts just sucking in the water, especially humidity down south. I remember being Louisiana, Mississippi kind of stuff. And so when it happens, you have to go through the engine. That's where the big $2,300 cost comes into. The transmission issue was under recall. That shouldn't cost anything. And so, if you look at that kind of stuff, and then, there's a 2004-25 gets an honorable mention here because the spark plug's breaking off the head. That was just dumb. I remember that happening. That was just terrible. And so the bottom line is this. Every truck you could buy could have issues, but we're telling you 2012 is not a good year. 2004 is not a good year. 2014 seems fine, and 2020 seems fine so far. And so we'll see what happens in the future. All right, I was looking at some more information I want to add to this story, and I'm going to add to the post we have up there, but I was looking at engine problems. And what's interesting is when you open some of these up and look at engine stalling while driving, specifically, there's owner complaints are about the stalling. So it's 5-liter V8, 3.2-liter V6, 3-liter V6. And so they took it in and replaced the throttle body. And this is something that I've seen in several of these. And actually, if you go into the 2014 models, the 2014 models, I think you'll see the same thing. Is it 2014 or maybe 2016? I was in one of this, clicking around quite a bit. And if you look at this, engine stalls while driving, a common complaint. Now, what they're saying is the throttle body failures. There's a video that describes electronic parts failing in the throttle bodies. So with this information, you're able to go to our parts store, buy an aftermarket throttle body, replace it at ourselves in a campground in 30 minutes for $120. So there's many YouTube videos show how to replace the throttle body safely once replaced, how to calibrate it. So there's people that are fixing it themselves because the throttle bodies keep causing the truck to stall. And I'm looking for 16, whether there's an issue. There's some issues here, but the other thing too is the 5-liter V8, 5-liter V8, V8, 5-liter V8. This is FX4, doesn't say what the engine is, just a 5-liter V8. Finally, some EcoBoost, but these EcoBoost engines don't look like they're failing with the turbochargers. They're failing. Here we go. This is the throttle body. This is the person with the throttle body. 5-liter V8, 5-liter V8, 3.5-liter EcoBoost. They did change the throttle body. So throttle body looks like on the 3.5-liter, but again, a lot of issues from the 5.0-liter V8, more than the EcoBoost. 3.7 is mistyped. Replaced the identical issue was the throttle body. So throttle bodies on the EcoBoost look like that's something that's being replaced if you happen the truck be stalling. But other than that, looks like the 5.0 liter has some issues as well, which, you know, typically people don't like the EcoBoost because they worry about the turbochargers. But I can't, looking through the site, I can't find any sort of stuff about the turbochargers failing. It's about that throttle body. All right, there you go. There are my thoughts on whether the Ford F-150 is reliable. And I think it's really interesting when you start talking about engines specifically on the F-150, because there's always been a lot of things in the comments in this channel and the forums and places about those turbochargers on the EcoBoost engines. A lot of people are really concerned about reliability in those, and there's been some stories of guys who've had engine failures or they've had turbos that go out, and they could be $2,000-3,000 to replace one of those turbocharged engines. As far as turbochargers, not the engines, maybe more than that for the engines, but to replace those turbochargers is quite expensive. Now, I haven't seen that though, and it's kind of surprising to say that. And I've also seen more problems on like carcomplaints.com with a 5-liter V8 than I did on the EcoBoost, which is just shocking, right? You would think it'd be the opposite way. But I got to tell you, turbochargers are here. They're here to stay. You know, we're talking about the next generation Toyota Tundra having a turbocharged engine. You're looking at Chevy has a turbocharged engine as well. Ford offers 2 turbocharged engines, and that's not even looking like SUVs and things. There's tons of turbochargers throughout SUVs. And so I think the old thinking of turbochargers weren't reliable from like the 70s and 80s. It's just not the case anymore. And I think that if you have fear about the EcoBoost and reliability based on turbocharger, I'm not sure that's accurate. Now, I'm sure in the comments below, there's going to be people going to argue with me and whether turbochargers are reliable or not, and whether I'm saying is foolish or not. So go ahead, put it down below. I like reading them. Also, check out this video over here. It's a good time. Website down below. And again, I'll put a link to the article that on our website so you can check it out for your own self at your own time, because it's a good article. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you down the road.